Bring back my panel, starting with John King. I mean, John, there's a lot of theories, a lot of thoughts. I mean, people commenting, swirling around, no names attached to it. Do we know? I mean, is this information coming from the close inner circle to Jeff Zeleny saying that this is a very tight circle now?
The entire Democratic Party is having a conversation, a family conversation, and then there are groups within the Democratic Party talking within their groups. Let me go through several different things. To Jeff's point about the governors, I'm told the Democratic governors have had another phone call. Remember, they had the meeting at the White House with the president, that they have had another strategy call among themselves since, essentially making the point that what are we going to do if he doesn't get out? What next steps should we plan if he doesn't take the hit to get out? That's one, and that's a big one. Number two, I'm told the First Lady has canceled an event planned on Sunday in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Now, the president is home sick with COVID, right? So connecting dots there might not be the right safe thing to do, but that's a fact. A big event in Michigan, Ann Arbor, student area where the president is struggling. The First Lady's not going to do that event. Fundraisers, I'm now told, have not only told the Biden campaign, we're done. We're not raising any more big money for you, but now they have told the Democratic House and Senate campaign committees, we are not raising any more money for you. It was put to me, quote, they believe if Joe is at the top of the ticket, the House and the Senate are gone too. They don't want to throw good money after bad. A senior House Democrat told me a few moments ago, yes, that card has been played. Donors essentially saying, get him to leave the race or we're not giving you any money at all. And I just want to show you, look at this graphic on the screen right now. This is just the last week. Since 1 week ago to today, the Biden campaign has spent $8.8 million on television. Donald Trump's campaign has spent $33,000 on television. Nearly $9 million to $33,000. And Donald Trump has gone up in the polls every single day. So the donors are saying, why are we going to give you more money when you're spending money at that rate? The polls say what they say. And you cannot, this is a hard one for the president. I spoke to a Democrat today who spoke to the president several days ago, said he was digging in and defiant. Had a talk with one of the 3 or 4 people closest to the president today who says now there's a sense of inevitability. But if you don't have money, Anderson, you can't run a campaign, whether you're the president of the United States or not.
Abby,
There is a conversation happening outside of the president and his inner circle. And the conversation happening inside the president's mind and in his inner circle is quite different. President Biden, this is according to multiple Democrats that I've spoken to today, he is feeling assailed, obviously, by his own party. He is not convinced by any of this. He's not convinced by the poll numbers that John has reported on and talked about, that he's seen from Democrats, including, according to our reporting, from Nancy Pelosi. He's unconvinced that the alternatives that are being talked about are realistic. And he is still in a place where he does not see a reason for him to leave this race. But at the same time, what John is talking about with the donors is very real, and it's actually, in some ways, seems to be working against the purposes of people who want Joe Biden to step aside. The donors are upping their pressure. They are frustrated. They're angry. They feel misled. They are telling individual races and the party committees that they don't want to spend any more money. But President Biden, I'm told, feels like that is donor pressure. He's looking at the grassroots of his party and he's saying, they're still with me. He's saying, my delegates are still with me and nobody can take my delegates away from me. So they are in a bind right now. Everybody's in a waiting game because there's only still, as we sit here right now, pressure. The pressure is what it is. But everyone knows only one person can make that decision. And even as inside of his campaign, a lot of his aides have moved. They've moved toward Joe Biden needs to step out. Joe Biden is still not there yet.
Casey,
Yeah, I would just say briefly, I take all of Abby's points, and no one can know definitively, except the people in the room with him, what's in Joe Biden's head exactly right now. I will say there has been a noted shift in posture among the immediate circle that is around him. People that are reaching out to that inner circle are receiving replies and kind of responses that are just notably different than the ones that they have received in previous weeks. And I don't think we can, suppose what that means, but any shift like that in this kind of an environment is really noteworthy.
David?
Yeah, I kind of I've hung with some of these people for a very long time, and the general sense is that this thing is on a trajectory. I'm sure what Abby, listen, Joe Biden is a very strong and defiant guy. He believes deeply in himself. He's defied the odds before. But the confluence of things that are coming in right now are very hard to overcome. And yes, you can deny the polls and say, well, I don't believe 2/3 of Democrats want me to drop out. You can deny the fundraising numbers until the plane can't get gassed up. And I don't think anybody wants it to come to that point. I think this weekend he's going to hear not just from people outside his camp, but inside his camp. And by the one last point about this, we talked about the fact that the president isn't going to mention Joe Biden tonight. And yes, that may serve his purposes in terms of softening his approach. But it also it reflects the fact, as I've said here the last few nights, they don't want to knock Joe Biden out of the race. And there's a reason for that.
I want to play something that Senator Jeff Koons, Chris Koons said to Wolf Blitzer earlier today on our air.
Is he even considering it, leaving?
Look, I think he weighs very seriously the input of those he trusts and admires, those who've served with him. And beyond that, I'm not going to get into the details. Wolf, I think he deserves the respect of being able to reflect on this moment.
Is he even considering leaving the race?
Wolf, I haven't spoken to him in the last few days. I shouldn't speak to that without direct knowledge.
John King, I just want to ask you, because we just ran a graphic, and it's based on this reporting from MJ Lee, saying that senior-most West Wing advisors to the president tell CNN Thursday night they have had no discussions amongst themselves or with Biden about the president dropping out of the race. How do you... That sounds like they're not talking to him.
Well, that's what the campaign is saying on the record. Look, obviously... the president's the candidate. The president gets this. How deep are those conversations? How deep is the pushback? I mean, just to give you a little context, Chuck Schumer's office issued a statement the other night, unless your source is Joe Biden or Chuck Schumer, it's speculation. That's a way of saying it's true. We're just not going to say it's true. Look, of course, one of the questions we've all had for 3 weeks now since the debate is how candid are the 3 or 4 people closest to the president being with him about this. And when he repeatedly, as you've seen in public interviews, Abby's right, in private conversations, he's saying, I can still do this. I've been counted out before. I can come back. I'm still stronger than any other Democrat out there. That's what he says back to them. What we don't know is what they're saying back to him. But one of the things they are telling him now, because they're hearing words, is that people aren't going to show up at your convention. They are publicly going to go out there next week and say, you have to go. Do you want to, and you're not going to have any money. And can you come, yes, look, Joe Biden's stubbornness and resilience has been his greatest character trait. He has been told he lost in 87, he lost in 2008, 88, he ran in 87 and 88. He's been told he was never going to be president. He's the president of the United States, right? And so tip your hat to this man's resilience. But sometimes what a lot of people are saying is sometimes your greatest strength, stubbornness, becomes your weakness.
Ben?
Dreams become nightmares and nightmares become dreams. You're watching a nightmare become a dream for Donald Trump. He has had a nightmarish summer with convictions and indictments and all kind of stuff, almost got shot. It's becoming a dream for him. Biden's the opposite. The dream that he had for himself as a young man to stand up and to rescue his country and move it in a positive direction, he actually delivered on that. He delivered on that. He did beat all those odds. He has done extraordinary things. He is an extraordinary man. But by holding on too long, it's becoming a nightmare. And the donors who have written huge checks for him, I mean the biggest checks, are the ones who are stepping back. The smartest peers, Nancy Pelosi is a political genius. Chuck Schumer is a political genius. His peers are now turning on him. And tonight he's sick. He's sick and he's watching all this happen. And I think it may take him a moment, but I believe he will get where he needs to go. This is a terrible, terrible moment for Joe Biden.
As we get closer to Donald Trump's speech, wrestling star Hulk Hogan will be on stage, picking up one of the big themes of the night, Trump as a fighter. That's ahead, along with a musical performance by Kid Rock. CNN's live coverage of the Republican National Convention continues after a quick break.
And do you hear a single word from Washington?